We are now recording. So here I have my friend Onnist from New Jersey. He is a New Jersey musician, rapper, podcast host. He also hosts, tell them about your open mic that you do, because you can explain it better than I can to everybody.
Yeah. Okay. First off, just like thank you for having me on. Like I appreciate being on the platform. Yeah. Like I know this is gonna be a whole lot of fun. So yeah, like Pranzata said, I'm Onnist. I'm a hip hop musician, New Jersey musician, and I also host an open mic every single Saturday now. We used to be on Fridays, but we do a virtual open mic on Instagram. And, you know, just have a lot of talents on there, whether they're poets, spoken word artists, singers, rappers, magicians, sometimes comedians. Yeah. And I've had you on there. And
I was on there a couple times in the beginning. I started working a lot of hours, so I couldn't go on lately. But that has been such a savior and such a nice thing for you to do, because there were so many people in the beginning of the pandemic that were so used to performing regularly and completely lost like the ability to perform. I mean, now some people are actually going out and performing again, like outdoors in safe events. I've been doing that with comedy events and stuff like that. But in the beginning of the pandemic, man, you really saved a lot of people's asses. So that was really kind of you to do such a thing for the, music community. And not only that, but it was an opportunity to meet so many musicians in the field and different people that I'm now friends with on an Instagram that I never would have met like without you. So thank you so much for doing that. So
dude,
that's awesome.
I mean, honestly, it's my pleasure, because I knew that there was a void that we had to fill, and me being a musician, me being a performer, there was an itch that I needed to be scratched. And I knew for a lot of people, they wanted that. And I was like, you know what, if nobody's going to do it, I'm going to be the one to do it. So, and now I know that there's plenty of other open mics around, but I think that it was cool to have like one that's kind of in our area of like North Jersey, because I don't think anybody that I know in this area really did it. Yeah. So it's good to have something that's been consistent and that's friendly. We always have like a positive vibe on the show.
Yeah, everyone's really nice there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But you have to come back. You have to stun us.
I know.
With like,
I've been like, I'm actually moving in a couple weeks. I like this room and I worked hard to paint it, but I'm unfortunately moving in about 3 weeks. So I've been like upping my work hours, to pay for my move and everything like that. But I will definitely be back. I'm going to have to make an arrangement, because it's awesome. Like I said, like doing that. And I even met one girl, she's a poet on there, and she's going to be on my podcast in a couple weeks. I think next Sunday. I feel like her name starts with an R. Rohana, yeah. She's a poet, and I know nothing about poetry, so I figured she would be a good person. Rohana. Yes, she will be here next Sunday, actually.
Yeah, she's awesome.
No, 2 Sundays from now. But yeah, she seems like a really cool girl. So yeah, just stuff like that. And I was at first a little skeptical of performing. The very first week I was skeptical of performing online, but it was actually really cool. Like, you could hear everybody, and it was a good experience. So
right. I mean, I want to thank you for this platform, because this is something that I would want to do as well. Like whenever I have the setup, but you got all the setup with the mic stands. It's just,
I've been trying. I as you know, and probably as everybody's tired of me talking about, I'm love Joe Rogan. Like he's a big inspiration for me. So he really inspired me to, get this moving forward. So, like I said, I'm going to be moving in a few weeks, but I'm still going to take my equipment over there and start a studio over there as well. So before we get in, we're going to actually perform a song in a couple minutes, but before we get into that, I'm going to ask you a few questions that are totally unrelated to music or anything. They're just icebreaker, interesting questions about you as a person. Perfect. So my first question for you, and now I've been playing around with like asking my guests weird questions. So some of them are the same as last week, and then some of them are completely different. But my first question is, are there any words in the English language that bother you? Like some people have a word that they hear it and they cringe, or like, it doesn't even have to be cringe. It could be like something that they feel disgusted by or excited by. Like, is there a word that you really love the sound, or a word that you really hate the sound of? This is a weird question, but
it is because I know people who like, they don't like certain words, but I never thought of that. I guess maybe it would have to be in the moment. I wish I had an answer. The first thing that came to mind was crackle, but
crackle. So why don't you like the word crackle?
No, it was just the first thing that came to
your mind.
But okay, let me try to replace this question with like a weird thing about me.
Okay.
Right, that kind of has to do with words. All right.
Yeah.
So sometimes, like if I'm walking, right, I'm just doing something trivial like cleaning up. I'll have like a little mind game, and so what I'll do is I'll try to see what word combinations fit with all the vowels. Okay, so what I mean by that is like, so with B blank T. So there's bat, bet, bit, bot, and butt, and that works perfectly.
Oh my God.
So I would do that with mad different word combinations and see if it works. Like I'll do may, me, my, mo, moo, things like that.
Yeah.
Just all day. So, okay.
So this is why you're a rapper and I'm not, because I would never even think to do something like that. So I was like wondering like what your mind must be like as someone who can come up with like basically poetry. Like it's very poetic, but like a musical rhythmic poetry. And I'm just like, I've tried to write raps before and I'm like, I'm really, really bad at it. So that's amazing that you have those, skills and you think of things in that way. So clearly your mind is just working this way. You know what I mean?
Sometimes it's annoying because I catch myself doing it. I'm like, hey, could you relax? It's almost like those things where like, meditation helps you to unwind and kind of turn off the thinking.
Yeah.
That's one of those things that just happens like instinctually,
I know what you mean. It's kind of like a creative thing for you. It just kind of happens.
Like playing with words and whatnot. So sometimes I'll try to look for different rhymes or just how ending rhymes and things like that. Like I put a lot of emphasis in my life on words. I mean, obviously I do what I do, but it's always been like that since I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like even me just digesting information, words and speaking, like for whatever reason for me, visual information, I mean, obviously, but I just, even if I know what I'm looking at, it's hard to process. I almost need somebody to explain it to me. So then I have a deeper understanding. Yeah. Like I understand through words, Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's a really cool way to think about things. So I'm going to have to remember, because this is the second time I tried to ask this question, what words bother you? And my last guest, he did come up with an answer, but it wasn't like a strong question that people were like jumping for. So I have to remember to try a new question next week. So next. Snapshot. Okay, so here's another question, which the other guest was like, okay, this question is overwhelming. So I'm sorry if
overwhelming. Wow.
I'm sorry if I overwhelmed.
So what's your most traumatic experience?
No, it's not. Like, I do have a question kind of like that, but not this question. So this question is, if right now there was a documentary being made about you in this moment, in this snapshot of your life, what would the theme song of that documentary be? Oh. It's like an intense question.
I like it though. The theme song.
Like, and then he was like, this is too much, I can't answer this. So I was like, okay, well, what about the day? And I narrowed it down for the day. Is there a song that matches your day today?
These are hard questions, man. I wish I was more like quick with it.
It's probably not you. It's probably me that is picking way too hard questions, because the last guest had the same thing.
I mean, at least you're not asking me like, what's my favorite color?
Yeah,
like these are actually interesting.
So I need to find a middle ground of like, what's your favorite color and like, what's the theme song of your life? Like I have to find something in the middle. Okay, let's try the next question.
Wait, let me try to answer that question though. I mean, what I would say is that what this day feels like is like, the word that comes to my mind is confident, because sometimes I like struggle with confidence and like my anxiety can get the best of me. Mm-hmm. But when I'm in a situation where I feel comfortable and there's other things in my life that are kind of pushing me towards like more relaxing to kind of ease that stuff, it makes everything just feel better. So maybe the word, wait, what was the question?
The question was, if there was a well, forget the documentary. Okay. If there was a theme song about you in this day or this snapshot of where you are in life right now, what would your theme song be? Like, like for example, some comedians, they have like comedy specials on Netflix and they'll have like a theme song that they walk into. Like if right now you had some big event and there was like a song that maybe that's a better way to ask the question.
Right.
If you were entering like a show that you were putting on, what song would they play for you as you arrived?
Man, okay, so everything that usually I try to trust my gut and my intuition, so usually the first thing that comes to my mind is usually what it is. So I was thinking about this song by J. Cole called Dollar in a Dream, and it's like he's talking about his hunger and where he wants to go, where he's been, and all his aspirations. So that kind of encapsulates what my life is feeling like.
Can you like say a line from the song, like a line from the song that speaks to you?
Man, okay, let me tell you this. One thing about like starting to write my own music is that I won't remember somebody else's lyrics anymore.
Yeah.
Only when I hear the song. So no.
That's okay. Okay, so the next question I think is easier. Okay. I think it's kind of hard, but it's easier.
These are good though. I do like these. They're thinkers for sure.
At least the audience, you can try to think what would your answer be. You can write it in the comment section below if you have any answers for these questions. So the next question I have for you is, me and my friends have been talking about this lately. What is your love language? If you don't know about the 5 languages of love, it's a thing. I don't remember the name of the author, but he wrote a book called The 5 Love Languages. And the whole idea of the book was that, if you're in a relationship with somebody and you don't feel like you're connecting or communicating properly, it's because everybody perceives love differently. And the 5 languages that he said are gift giving, acts of service, touch, quality time, and words of affirmation. So I'll say them again. So which one of these resonates with you? Like when you're in a relationship with somebody, what is your language that a woman could connect with you the best? So gift giving, acts of service, touch, quality time, or words of affirmation. So
it would definitely be, I'll rank them because I think that all of those are relevant. So words of affirmation for sure. I like that. I like validation. Like I was just telling one of my friends yesterday that like the animals that I identify with are dogs and turtles, right? So because the dog is because like they're like, oh, the wagging tails, like they're happy or whatever. But then when you pet them, they just feel like they're so content. Like, and that's me when I get validation. I'm just like, oh, delicious. You know what I'm saying? So I think that words of affirmation, like tell me like, oh, please reassure me. Reassurance is important. So words of affirmation, touch, being affectionate, hugging, holding hands, all that type of stuff for sure. Acts of service, it like really makes me feel like you appreciate me, you're doing this for me. And then gifts is probably somewhere 4th or 5th. It's not so important to me. Like it's cool, but then what was the other one that I'm leaving out?
The last one was quality time.
Definitely quality time. Yeah, quality time.
Would that be your first one? That's your fourth one, and then your fifth one would be gift giving.
Yeah.
For me, my top one would actually be quality time, which I don't know why, but I just feel like for me it trumps everything in my relationships. Is that I always look for just like literally quality time, like a good conversation or a good date, and it doesn't have to be by a good date I don't mean like financial, like not the gift giving aspect. You're just enjoying yourself, just enjoying like that's definitely my like how I get my rocks off is like a good conversation with somebody, which is why I like doing podcasts, because it's like exciting for me, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Like that's the thing with me, like I've had hundreds or thousands of conversations, and I always thought like, damn man, this should have been recorded because we touched on so many different things, and there's so much value in having conversations. I mean, I know that there are a lot of people who have who do podcasting and then they talk and it's like, bro, like what's there rocks up there? It's like they say nothing, they have nothing to contribute to a conversation. But I feel like in a lot of conversations I have, I might be like bigging myself up, but it always seems productive. Like, oh, I got somewhere here.
You achieved something like through this conversation or something.
And now I have a deeper understanding of the world and myself. Like, so conversations are super important.
So what would you think is the value of conversations in 2020? Like, why do they hold such a high value to you? I have an answer too, but I'm curious your answer.
I think it's everything. I think we don't have anything without conversation, and there might be a lack of communication. I feel like people communicate, but improperly. Like a lot of people, they speak to each other just to get their point across and never to listen to the other side's point of view. And that's not communication. The point is to lay your cards on the table. The other person lays their cards on the table. You try to understand it. I was just telling somebody the other day that everything is based on perspective in life. Everything. So with the things that have been happening in the world, it's like sometimes I don't understand how somebody could think a certain way, but then I realize it's just based on their experiences and like all the information that somebody else or themselves downloaded into their mind. That's just how they view things, and whether they want to grow and start seeing things a different way, or whether they want to stay in that mindset for the rest of their life, it's on them. But like I use the example of this picture, right? So it was just little cartoon characters, and one, it was like, okay, so it was a number 6, right? And on one side, somebody was pointing at it saying it's a 6. The person standing on the other side was saying it was a 9. They're looking at the exact same shape, the exact same character, but different perspectives of it. So it's like a really good metaphor for life, basically.
There's been instances in my life where I've like, I feel like nowadays there's like a whole thing where it's like cut out toxic people, and like I feel like I kind of got caught up in that too, like thinking like if I didn't agree with somebody or if I didn't always jive with somebody that I had to cut them off for whatever reason. But then I started having like a change of perspective where I started kind of like trying to see other people from, like you said, everybody sees things differently, and you don't know what somebody's background might have been, and you don't know what might have led a person to see things the way they see things these days, even if it makes no sense to you. Everybody has a completely different background. And I think in that sense, like, I I think we're getting to a point in society where we're very separated and we're very divided. So I think I don't know, I'm coming to a place where I want to start trying to understand people and not judging people so quickly, which I've been guilty of in the past. In the past, I've been guilty of kind of like quickly judging people or cutting them off because they saw things differently than me. But I think, you know, going back to what we said about having conversations, it's like a rare art form these days because we're so used to just seeing things in a snapshot and seeing things in a second on the phone. You know, we communicate in little tiny snapshots of, oh, I see this guy on Instagram or this, you know, scroll through this thing and then I hop on this
making
Facebook.
Snap judgments of things based on what a minute long video. And now because this person recorded this minute of their life, now they're painted as that always. And that's something that I've thought about a lot too. Like, you could have, it could be your worst day. You could be at the bottom, lowest vibration on one day, but ultimately a good person. But if that occasion is documented, then boom, you're labeled that forever, which I think is unfortunate. And what you just said inspired so much thought. Like, whenever, this is why I feel like people, like, we need to be like 30 seconds for you, 30 seconds for me, because then I have mad thoughts and I can't arrange them. I wish I had a notepad right now, just to be like, oh yeah.
Me and my last guest were talking about this, how like when we think of things, like 20 different thoughts pop up, and it could be like, again, it could be the way we're arranged now. We're so used to doing so many things at the same time, so it's like it's hard to control our thoughts now. It's hard to like focus. It's hard to focus now, you know.
It's extremely hard to focus. I mean, look, like, sometimes I'll have YouTube playing and then I'll be on Twitter, but also watching TV. And then I realize, like, I'm not getting any of this. It's just, it's a lot of things we have to be present for. I think that's what's lacking today, is presence of mind. But then doing things like this and having conversations where it's you and me talking, even though, like, I'm trying to stray away from, like, listening to somebody, but then preparing what my rebuttal, but I really want to, like, absorb what's being said. You know?
I know what you mean. It's like part of practice, like, again, practicing the art of conversation. You're right. Like, I've had instances in my life where people are just like so quick to step in and jump in kind of thing, you know what I mean? But which is actually one of the good things about hosting this podcast is I've been able to look at myself. Because there's been times where I would interview a guest and I now listen back and I see myself cutting people off and I'm like, oh, that's gross. Like,
it is, isn't it?
You know what I mean? Like, I'm guilty of that myself. Like, I'll be like, oh, let me tell you this thing. And I'm just like, no, this is not cute. Like, this is not a good behavior. I need to correct this about myself. But again, that's been like one of the blessings of having a podcast is like kind of like observing myself from the outside, which is a blessing and a curse because I probably criticize myself a little too much. But sometimes it's good to criticize yourself and it's good to have like some kind of awareness about your behaviors and your social behaviors and etiquette and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
I'll say this, like, I myself also have a proclivity to interrupt people sometimes, but that's one of those things that for the past year, because I feel like all 2020 I've been on this path of growth and self-betterment, self-improvement. So that's one of the things, like letting other people talk, not interrupting, just because like sometimes I have an idea and because my mind is like just like a vast universe, but no, it's like an abyss. That's really what it is. So like if you could just visualize like just darkness and then an idea pops by, and if I don't grab it immediately and say it,
you're like afraid it's gonna go away.
And it will go away. Like I will lose my thought. It'll never be seen again. But I think I'm personally getting better at that. Also hanging on to thoughts and ideas, but also letting other people get their point across as well.
Okay, I have another question for you. So okay, it's funny that this is the next question because it kind of goes into, like, we already answered the question basically. The next question is, what is a character flaw that you know about that you want to work on? So it's funny that that's the next question.
That's funny. I mean, they're endless. Like, so, I mean, the one that comes to mind is sometimes I can be short tempered, but like not in like a hothead kind of way where I'm just like, but just like small things can irritate me. I'm not going to keep saying like, oh, it gets to me because I'm trying to like, because, you know, I believe in if you speak something over and over again, it becomes more true. And you kind of end up living to those things like you're programming yourself. So this is something that I have observed in myself, that it'll be something small that irritates me. Like, okay, the dog wants to go outside and they're barking. And the sixth bark, it's like my angry meter starts to rise. But then me trying to be more observant of myself. And this kind of goes back to what you said before about how you doing your podcast, being able to look at yourself and record yourself, you can examine yourself. And I don't know who it was, whether it was Plato, Socrates, who said like the unexamined life isn't a life worth living. So I try to live by that and like try to view myself from an aerial view.
Yeah.
So like if I was seeing somebody else acting or speaking as I was speaking right now, how would I feel about them?
Yeah.
And that kind of puts me back in check and I get back into my frame. So a character flaw that I would want to change, that I'm actively working on changing, is like not getting bent out of shape over really insignificant things, or even things that can be viewed as significant, because you know, like you could have your worst day ever and you could choose not to let it get to you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, of course, things like they can manipulate our emotions, but sometimes things just happen.
Yeah.
It's not that things happen to you, they happen around you, but it's about your reaction to those things that determines how you frame it, you know?
Yeah, it's almost like, I know what you mean. It's like little things that don't have to be that irritating. You can actually look at as like a blessing. I was reading this somewhere. I can't remember the author, but I was reading in some book. It was like, you know, those days where you're like waiting in line at the grocery store or whatever, or at the gas station, you're like, oh crap, I have to be somewhere, get out of my way. Like it's kind of like a Jersey impatience type of thing. Try to view that moment as a blessing. Like, okay, well now I have 10 minutes to myself that I'm not in a rush to go somewhere. You know what I mean? Like you're waiting in line, like, okay, try not to get irritated, you know, and those things are hard to do, but I do catch myself like in those same frames of mind, like getting irritated about things that like you don't need to get irritated about. But
Right.
That's good that you have that sense of self-awareness, because that was the question, like trying to build I wanted to touch on like the topic of self-awareness on this podcast, because it's something that I've also been working on greatly this year as well.
It's developing slowly.
Yeah.
I think on like the journey of making music, it's definitely helped me become more self-aware and self-reflective.
Yeah.
Because once you're there, you got your paper in front of you, because most of the time I write with paper,
Yeah.
And your pen, and then you got the music playing. You just think like, okay, how do I feel? Because that's really what it is. I've never been the type of artist to like write some BS that doesn't make sense to me. It has to be authentic to my thoughts, feelings, and experiences. It can't, or else it's just make believe, which is okay. Like creating a narrative is cool,
Yeah.
if that's what you're doing, but I don't like writing things that aren't authentic to me. So I'd say that's a blessing from starting music that's helped me develop as a person in that same way.
It's almost like since it has to be authentic to you, it's kind of like getting your feelings out on your paper. You know what I mean?
For
like
sure.
Things that you might not have been able to. I find that with my comedy, like I'm able to do that too. With music, I really struggle with lyrics. Like when I write a song, and I'm jealous of you in a good way, not like a mean way, but like I really respect your ability to write lyrics and to rap and everything like that. It's very impressive to me, because I'm a very musical person. Like I think very musically, but I really struggle with lyrics. And the music that I write, I know what the song's about. Like I know what the feeling is, and I know what I'm feeling when I write it, but I don't know how to put my feelings in words. And that's something I really struggle with. So I feel like my lyrics come out like bullshit, because I don't know I don't know how to describe what I'm feeling. But when I do comedy, which is why comedy has been a great outlet for me, I find that my stresses come out in my humor. Like the things that I'm going through and the things that I didn't even realize were my stresses end up coming out in my humor. So
Right.
I just find that it's interesting that it's almost like my words make more sense in comedy than they do in music, but in music, the melody and everything makes sense to me. So I really wish I had your skills for like writing lyrics and stuff.
I mean, one day, we should collaborate. Like,
Yeah.
if you want to write a song about something, like,
Yeah.
'cause I do fancy myself as a writer. Like, I'm not much of a musician yet. Like, I know a little bit of guitar, a little bit like little baby novice type things on piano, but like, I would love to.
I might just
craft a
give you
song
my
with
melodies and be like, listen, just write the words. Like,
Write the
you know
words.
what I mean? Like,
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, for me, ever since I was a kid, I had some kind of knack with the words. Like,
Yeah.
in second grade, I wrote this poem, and then it got published in a book, and it's like, so it's like, it kind of makes sense all leading up to it, because I wasn't really musical as a kid. Like, there was music around me. I liked music, but it was never a thing that I thought of doing until I was like 17. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you kind of started more as a poet, and then it developed into a musician type of thing.
Like more than anything, I think I was always a speaker. So it makes sense. Like in my songs, I'm speaking. Like spiritual people would call it using your throat chakra. Like that's something that's fulfilling for me. Like being able to speak. Like once you get me talking, all my friends will tell you the same thing. It's hard to make me stop, and that's why I kind of have to get myself back in my frame, because I'm like a dog. Dogs just get excited, and then they don't chill out. You got to be like, hey, you're doing too much. It's kind of me sometimes.
So you're a dog person. What do you think of cats?
I love cats, but they don't love me. That's the thing. Like, they're cats are so hot and cold. You don't know where you stand with them. Like in 1 minute they could be snuggled up to you, like they love you. The next minute they could be plotting your murder. You don't know where you're at with cats.
I like dogs. I've just never had a dog, so. I would call myself a cat person because I've had cats growing up, and I currently have cats. They're in the other room somewhere, but they're not like dogs. They're not going to run up and greet who's out the door. They're going to hide from you.
Sure, yeah.
But I just find that interesting. How like there, like speaking of segregation, there seems to be a segregation of like dog people and cat people. There's like people who are like, I only like dogs and I like cats. I like both. I like dogs. I just never had one. But when I see dogs on the street, I'm really excited. But I find it funny. I heard I'm a big fan of Whitney Cummings. She's a comedian who does a podcast.
She's funny.
She's hilarious. And she admitted, and I always was skeptical of this, but she admitted on her podcast, she said she's not a cat person, and it's not that she hates cats, it's that she feels really insecure around them. Do you feel that way?
Yeah. Yeah, man. And it's like
she says like she's a dog person because like she needs that instant spilling my wine everywhere because I'm Italian and I talk with my hands probably not good. Yeah, I know. Like what do you call it? She said that she needs that instant gratification that like a dog gives her, and that when she's around cats, she's like, "Hey, little thing," and they run away.
I need to be chased.
You need to be chased.
It's like if you're in a relationship, like there's always a person who's pursuing the other person way more.
Yeah.
I like being chased. You know what I'm saying? So
you like being the one who's like being chased. Gotcha.
Yeah, and I like playing coy, like, oh, not today. Like, you know, like I need to be the cat in the me and a dog relationship.
So you need a dog. You are the cat and you need a dog person. That makes sense. See, like I know cats can be very rude. Like they can come across as really rude. But
they're condescending,
but I perceive them like people. Like I feel like people are very cat-like. Like people can be hot and cold. You know what I mean? And that's why I have like a love and respect for cats, because I kind of see them as
they have boundaries for sure.
They have boundaries, and they're like little tiny people to me. It's so weird. So I really like, I have stray cats in my, like, people when I was younger, people always joked that I'd be like a crazy cat lady, and like it just manifested without my permission, because like there's stray cats in my backyard that were already here like when I moved here, and like I didn't pick them, they were just there. So like I have 2 cats and those cats, but I seem to like really connect with cats because I get them. Like I'm like, okay, like you just have your preferences like sometimes. But I just find it funny because like I'm sure that a lot of people who like dogs like must feel that way. They must feel like used to the attention that a dog would give them, you know?
There was one time, right, that I met a cat that was actually a dog. Like I had gone to my friend's house. He's another musician. I had traveled over there. We were cooking up. And after we had been in the studio for like 2 or 3 hours, I went out and I met this cat, and the cat was just all over me, just begging me to pet him. And it was also like a husky or like cat like with muscles. Cat, So I'm like, oh, this is like a dog cat. Yeah. Or would it be a cat dog? No, a dog cat. It was a dog cat. It was just, it had so much dog energy. I loved it. That's the only way I would really like a cat. Yeah. Even though I do like cats, they're cute. And when they're nice, they're nice. Yeah. But when they're like standoffish and like every cat, like their energy is just like an eye roll, you know, like they're just so sick of everything. Like they're looking at you like, ugh, like that's just how cats are. Like, but
my cat, well, I have 2 cats, but my one cat, Jazzy, he's super duper sweet. He's so sweet, but we call it like his love hour because he's not sweet all the time. Like he has like a couple hours of the day and we'll say, oh, he's in his love hour like right now. And it's usually like around lunchtime and then around dinner time. Like he has his little love hour. But then there's other times of the day where you try to be affectionate with him and he does, like he'll just be like, not now. I'm not in the mood right now. It's just like so funny, like how, so like you said, sometimes they're in the mood. But yeah, it's just like a funny thing, you know?
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. I have 2 dogs. Like I have a older German Shepherd, and I have a younger, but now also getting older, Yorkshire Terrier. Yeah. And they have very different personalities. Aww. But our relationships have definitely changed over the years. I remember the Yorkie, he used to hate me. Like he would never want me next to him. And then I kind of would deliver that same energy, like, ugh, get away from me then. Like if you don't like me, then I don't like you,
don't like
either.
Me, I don't like you. Like,
period. But then, you know, the responsibilities of taking care of him kind of fell on me, and so now basically I'm his dad, or his older brother, I don't know, whatever you consider it, but that's my baby. Aww. So like he's so affectionate to me now. Like it's just we have a great relationship. And my old dog, like I've had her since I was 9 or 10.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm 24 now.
Oh wow.
So I think she's about to turn 15. So she's older, but she's still kicking. Like,
yeah.
I'm just about to tell you about my dog anyway. So yeah. So it's just, I always love dogs because I've just had them for most of my life now. But cats, like I remember I had a cat named Kafu, right? And that cat was actually really affectionate. Like that was my bro. But then he died in an unfortunate leech accident. He ate a leech and the leech got him.
Yeah, that type of stuff happens with cats. Would you ever date or marry a woman who had a cat?
Oh yeah. I used to date a girl who had a cat, and I would mess with the cat, and the cat like be so pissed at me. Like he would scratch me up, but I liked that. Like I was like, yeah, be rough with me, because I like when
like
my
the dog
dogs,
energy, I
like
rough
when
energy.
dogs are rough with me. Like with my smaller dog, it's funny because like you know how teacup Yorkies are so small. This guy is not a teacup anything. Like he's almost like if you could imagine a dachshund. Like he's long like a dachshund, but he looks like a Yorkie. Yeah. So like he's strong. Like he's built. Like if you ever touch his arms, he has like built forearms, everything. Yeah. You could just flip him around, kind of just like give him noogies. Yeah. And my big dog, you know, when I was younger, she used to walk me. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, I like that roughness and the ability to be able to just like smack you around a little bit. Yeah. You know?
So I have one more question for you. And then we're going to get into the song. So my other question for you is, and now this might be another difficult question. I'm trying to figure these questions out myself. What is the most embarrassing thing that happened to you recently? It doesn't have to be like of your life, but like, is there anything recently? And it could be small. It doesn't have to be the most. It could be slightly embarrassing, like an awkward moment with a lady at the bank or something. Was there any embarrassing thing?
It's really hard to pick because it's like every single day of my life is another awkward moment.
Do you like overthink things with like social interactions or something?
Not so much anymore. Like I'm beginning to let go of a lot of things that you really used to bother me. So, okay. So, I've told you this, but I'm gonna open up more about it. I have a visual impairment, right? Mm-hmm. So occasionally I'll bump into something because I won't perceive it. I won't see it. And so that could be really awkward because I don't present as like a blind person. I'm not like a caricature of a blind person with like shades and a cane. So it looks weird in normal human interactions. So that used to really like hurt me emotionally. It would feel like boom, like a punch to the stomach, but inside, right? And now when it happens, I'm just like, 'tis what it is, you know?
So you said your visual impairment is, does it have a name? Like the name? What's it called?
It's called retinitis pigmentosa. Yeah.
And you said it's like your vision focuses on one thing, but not the peripheral vision. Is that what it is? Or
pretty much, yeah. So it manifests differently for different people, but mine is like I have center vision, a very tight center vision, but barely any peripheral vision. Wow. So like, for example, if you had reached out your hand right here and left it there for 5 minutes and I never looked down directly at it, I would not know it was there.
So you kind of... like you have vision, but you need to move your eyes wherever you need to see. You're not able to perceive it.
I have to look directly at something. And sometimes even then, because it's just such a tight field, right? It's like something can be right here and I look here, which would, you'd be able to see it, but I'll miss it, right?
Oh, yeah. Have you had that your whole life?
Yeah.
Wow.
I used to think when I was younger, right, that's just how everybody saw it.
I was just going to say, like, how would you even know? A young kid, you would just think that was normal, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't know. And so I had also like just issues with blurriness and acuity, right? Yeah. So they said that I had an astigmatism, right? But my parents in my life, they'd just be able to see that it was more than that, right? So then I became 14 and I went to like a real eye doctor, and they had discovered that I had that condition. Yeah. And so like it's from then it's been like a whole journey of like acceptance and just coming to terms with it. But it's like sometimes I see it as a strength in a way. Yeah. Because I feel like sometimes I'm able to see things with my mind that other people can't see with their eyes in a weird way. Yeah. So.
I understand that. I do think that people who have certain types of impairments like that, a lot of times they have like another gift. It just seems to be the way, however you want to say it, just seems like to be the way that God crafted people. It always seems to me like people who have some type of impairment always have some type of spectacular gift. I have a little cousin, like a second cousin, I guess you'd say, because it's my cousin's child, and he has some type of visual impairment. I don't know what the name of it, but it's where their eyes go back and forth. Have you ever heard of this? It's some type of visual impairment where their eyes don't rest, like they're constantly moving left to right, like one of those clocks, like they're just always moving left to right. And he has to wear like special glasses and everything. But he has like this sweet, tender soul. Like he's like 5 years old, and it's almost like he's an old soul. And I just find that people who, again, like have these impairments always seem to possess some type of other gift. And it's almost like you said, like it's a curse, but also a blessing in some ways to be different like that. You know what I mean?
It's like the scales tip, like they may go down the other way, or like you end up compensating with something else, I think.
Yeah.
So like, I guess maybe you could say like my mind's eye, the third eye, I end up seeing more things.
Yeah.
Because it's weird. Like sometimes, or even like my whole life, having conversations with people, I would tell them, but did you ever think this way and see it from this perspective? And then like 9 out of 10 times somebody would be like, I never even thought of it like that. So it's like, that's like a recurring thing in my life that I always kind of view things from an alternative perspective in a way. So I feel like if we were like trying to figure out what my gifts were, that could be one of them. Like,
yeah. You do seem, to me, you seem like somebody who is like very mature, and who, because you're only 24, but you're speaking very maturely. Not that 24 is immature. I'm not saying that either necessarily, but I know when I was 24, I wasn't like, I think I was always an old soul, but I think it took me a while to really get to know myself and to be self-aware and stuff. And like you're talking about self-awareness and stuff like that. So I do feel like you seem like a person who like grew up young, or like must have grown up young or something like that. That's the thing. Like, I mean, obviously I have my moments of immaturity, of course, but like of course.
When I was really younger, like I would always hang out around older people and I would give them advice. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what's up, but I've heard old soul a lot in my life when somebody else was describing me. So yeah, like kind of accepted
reincarnated soul or something
maybe,
like that. Whatever your beliefs are. I don't know what I believe right now, but
sometimes like I feel like, oh man, I'm back here for a greater purpose or something. But at the same time, I'm still trying to figure things out. So it's not like I got it all figured out, like learning new things every day. But sometimes when I'm speaking to people, I feel like, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. Yeah. It's hard to explain, but I've always felt like an old soul, like you said, in a way.
I feel like I can relate to that a little bit. Maybe not as much, but I always felt like I was called an old soul when I was younger in particular. Now I actually am old, because they can't call me an old soul because I'm 32 now.
You're not old.
Like, I'm just kidding, but
you're in the prime of life.